Alright folks, the British twin barrel heavy tanks coming right after holiday ops in patch 1.27.1. Now the Supertest stats were not leaked for the tier 7 through 9, so I did not see the full stats of the Chopper, the Contender, and Conceiver. Only saw the full stats of the Canopener at tier 10, and that was pretty good. Comparable DPM and gun performance to the Super Conqueror, about the same speed as well, so about the same horsepower per ton ratio and top speed, but just slower traverse with more weight and more health and better hull armor, so it could be surprisingly good. And the Czech light tanks did not make a splash. The same could be said about the Polish tank destroyers, and the Japanese heavy tanks flopped with the gun cooling stuff, especially the Type 71. That's why it's getting a buff in this patch. So finally some good food after all this time, or at least a year. Let's take a look. So this is the grind starting at tier 7 from the Churchill Mk.VII, about 60,000 XP for the Chopper. And the stock grind is not bad. Only a turret, a engine, and a track, all at 10,000 XP. That is nothing. You already have the top gun. It's a twin barrel 20 pounder. So tier 7 grind is pretty easy, but you have more XP needed for the tier 8. Therefore, blueprints are more valuable, right? Just grind the blueprints. You don't have to grind the actual vehicles, but Conceiver has 20 pounder, about 200mm pen, but 32 pounder at 20,000 XP. Did they not change the actual XP needed? That's actually pretty good too. That's practically nothing also. Not like 50,000 XP or something, but it's at tier 8. Not bad a grind too. You get a better turret, hopefully. And tier 9, 32 pounder stock to a twin 105 and better turret. They change it up a little bit, but yeah, the XP needed is very uniform, so to speak. And Canopener does require a lot more XP than what you would expect out of a tier 10. Normally it's about 200,000 XP. This is an extra 30,000 tag on, so blueprints are very good, very efficient for grinding this line. Definitely more efficient than regular blueprints, but let's take a look at the tier 7. I have it right here, fully upgraded with the 20 pounder and the better turret, but 204mm of pin for a tier 7, not bad. About 7 seconds of reload, it's alright. DPM, decent, 1800. Now these vehicles don't lose DPM while switching to salvo mode, and they don't slow down like with the turbo mode on the CS63. So they don't slow down like with the siege mode. They can still move, it just takes a hit to the top speed. But accuracy is okay, 0.35, 2 seconds of aim time, 10 degrees of gun depression. Traverse in the single shot mode is actually not half bad, more like a fat medium tank. Switching to the salvo is 2 seconds. You don't stop to reload, you don't switch and pause with the reload, so that's good. But I have a soft spot for the Black Prince. Black Prince does not have a 20 pounder. It has a 17 pounder. Rapid firing 17 pounder, but not a 20. So it's not a bad gun, right? It's actually decent. And you will see tier 5s. Dispersion while moving is kinda if. So vertical stabilizer is kind of a must. Yep. Yeah, vertical stabilizer is a must. You cannot fit a rammer, so I would suggest better accuracy. 0.33, not bad. And possibly turbocharger. Health is rather chunky. 1300. That's not half bad. You could go with a improved hardening, but turbocharger could make it go faster. We're veering off to equipments, but otherwise the gun seems fine. Shell velocity sub 1000 meters per second, so could be a little bit better, but it is a 20 pounder gun. Gold shell is APCR with 30 more millimeters of pen, carries 80 rounds. You can spam a few. Now there's currently a weird bug or sometimes glitching of loading the high explosive and intuition to another round while having already one shell loaded for the double barrel. So don't know how the hell they're going to fix that, but I guess they'll figure that stuff out, or the UI of the double barrel stuff. But I haven't even playing with the FV226 Contradictious even after all these weeks. So yeah, they'll hopefully fix out the crosshair stuff, but the gun's alright. The gun's fine. Yeah, it's at tier 7. You'll see this vehicle in a tier 5, like a regular Sherman. You'll cry in a regular Sherman. So how good is the actual armor on this thing? That is the main question. Is it comparable to a T26 or T29? Let's see. I have 200mm pen, which is plenty at tier 7, but driver bulge is only 140. The rest is sloped 130 to about 170mm effective, so good against D25Ts, 122s, Russian guns. You still have to angle a little bit, right? It's not just foolproof. It's not like 200mm on a Porsche Tiger in a sense, but mantlet about 200. About 200. The cheeks are definitely more troll. Actual turret cheeks are about 200 as well. It's sloped. Cupola is somewhat okay-ish. It is only 120, but the vehicle is kind of tall, so shooting at the cupola might be a problem. Like with the Mutant M6, the vehicle is so goddamn tall that even a cupola is not exactly a weak spot because it's too tall to be aimed at. So, but overall, armor is alright. It's not the worst. 90 for the hull sides, 60 for the middle, 60 behind the tracks. Side scraping is not as promising. Yeah, 95 at the front end of the side armor, but yeah, side scraping is not as prominent. You have a larger tracks in the back, so easier to get your tracks blown off in the rear. It's more like a Valentine-esque of an engine slope downwards. Huh. Yeah, 60mm of side armor is nothing. So don't side scrape too much. You're hauled down all the time. Rangefinders are not a weak spot. That's good. It's space armor, but it's nothing there. It is 10 degrees gun depression, so something like this. That will hide the cupola even more, but you still have the driver bulge to be shot at, so don't expose the hull armor too much. It's fine. It's at tier 7. You'll see tier 5s, but you also see tier 9s. And the gun will likely struggle against tier 9s, especially the gold shell, but overall, it's okay. Yeah, hull armor is decent at the front, but kind of crap at the sides, so it's okay, not the worst. 13 horsepower per ton ratio, 34 kilometers per hour top speed, goes down to 20 in the double shot mode, weighs about 60 tons. It doesn't look like it, but this thing is kind of chunky when you look at it, when you ram it. But hull traverse, about 23 degrees per second. Terrain resistance, not bad. I mean, that's fine, I think, compared to a Porsche Tiger, or I think Porsche Tiger has one of the worst. But let's see. Porsche Tiger, Tiger P. 2.88 for soft, so it's slightly better, but a lot better for soft. Yeah, 2.88 is kind of myth. T29? Better than T29, other than hard. So, engine power is about the same, top speed about the same, but the gun... Oh, they nerfed the crap out of the 105 on the T29. Ugh. It was the king of tier 7 heavies, constantly getting nerfed across the board. This vehicle seems okay, right? I have a soft spot for the Black Prince, and this vehicle is definitely faster than the Black Prince, no question. It has better engine power, better terrain resistance, not as good DPM, but you have a better performing gun in terms of penetration. So yeah, The Black Prince is more like in your face and bullying like tier 5s of a vehicle. You get your ass crushed and creamed on by a tier 9 when you're playing the Black Prince. The Black Prince is good when hauled down, but otherwise it's so slow. So yeah, it's not a bad vehicle. I would say 5.5 or maybe a 6 for this thing. 5.5 feels pretty decent on the chopper. So moving on, the stock grind is not bad. But moving on to the Conceiver at tier 8. So more of a rounded hull front than the blocky-ish on the chopper, but 𝗕𝗶𝗶 is kind of massive. It's definitely more rounded for a British vehicle, surprisingly. It looks a little bit more like a Polish vehicle design, slightly, at least for the hull. But twin 32s on this thing instead of the 20. Yeah, this thing is more flat, angled. It should be twin 32s. Yep, 32s for the Top Gun and upgraded to turret. But how good is the firepower on this thing? For a tier 8, about average pen, 219, 280 alpha, the same as the actual Caernarvon. DPM is not bad, but it's not Caernarvon good. It's about the same as Action X Caernarvon. So 2370 is pretty good, right? It's very good for a heavy at tier 8. But the Caernarvon could spew out like 2700 DPM. So it's fine for a double barrel shot. And you will surprise people with like 560 alpha, right? Yeah, 560 alpha. Still rather quick traverse for the turret for a heavy. 10 degrees gun depression, decent enough aim time, accuracy gets a little bit better, and still 2 seconds of salvo prep. Now, I did not mention on the chopper, but all of these vehicles have a crappy 1.15 accuracy in salvo mode, so that's the worst. You have to basically shotgun people in the face. You have no dispersion while moving, which is good, or traversing the turret. But you have a garbage base accuracy in the salvo mode, so you're shotgunning at close range. Definitely shotgunning, but it applies to all the vehicles. All of them have the same stats otherwise, but compare the firepower to the Caernarvon, and the Caernarvon, yeah, 2700 DPM, so by 300. With worse accuracy, worse dispersion while moving, and a little bit of a pin, but not much. Better shot velocity though, that's nice. You carry a little bit more ammo too, 30 rounds more. So all of these vehicles carry lots of ammo, definitely lots of ammo, which is good. But dispersion is 0.18 from the glimpse. Yep, so it's okay, but you still need a vertical stabilizer on this vehicle, and definitely some sort of improved gunner sights, improved aiming, and possibly turbocharger on this thing. 1600 health, not bad. The same as with the Caernarvon, but pretty chunky. So let's see the actual armor, but 280 turret front. Whoa, is that like a Conqueror turret front? Or like a Nemesis? 𝗕𝗶𝗶 is bulging massive. Tumor on top. It's only 115 baseline to about 125. Oh god, the 𝗕𝗶𝗶 sucks. The turret front is a slope 80 on the roof, and 200 on the cheeks, and 280 on the actual base plate next to the manlet. But yeah, okay, just shoot the giant tumor on top. Hull is rounded. It's 50, but it is rounded. It's 120 at the beak, 150 for the bottom plate. You definitely have to haul down with this vehicle. The 𝗕𝗶𝗶 is massive. It is very comparable to the M1 𝗕𝗶𝗶, or the layer upon layer 𝗕𝗶𝗶s, like with the AMX 30B or the 59 Patton. So multi-stack turrets or multi-stack mini 𝗕𝗶𝗶s into one. That is massive. So 𝗕𝗶𝗶 is not looking great, but side armor wise, it's only 40 On the slope edge armor, this will get overmatched most of the time with high caliber guns if you're heavy tank cornering, contesting. So against Russian guns, you'll overmatch this armor. But 125 for the actual side armor. And 100 or 80 with 6mm of a side skirt. Where the hell was the 125 from? Oh, the front end of the side armor. The back end is only 80. Yeah, I'm worried about this plate. This plate right here. You'll get overmatched when you're contesting a heavy tank corner. That's not that great. So, armor is definitely not as on par, tier for tier, as with the chopper or the can opener at this point. But the turret front is strong, other than the tumor on top. So remove the tumor, it'll be a very good vehicle. But the tumor mars the actual entire armor profile. Definitely a big hindrance. But mobility wise, about the same horsepower per ton ratio and top speed as with the Caernarvon, right? So you do take a hit when you're going to the salvo mode, but yeah, the same comparing to a Caernarvon. About the same horsepower per ton, about the same top speed, same terrain resistance, just slower traverse effectively because the slightly slower horsepower per ton ratio, slightly. Turret traverse the same, gun traverse speed slightly slower. That's the going up and down traversing speed, but better gun elevation, same gun depression, more ammo. Shell velocity is also faster, APCR as gold shell. Yep. 250mm pen is about the same as with the Caernarvon, but that's not great. You want about 280 or 270 at least. That's fine. So this vehicle feels like more of a 5, right? If you remove the tumor on top, definitely better. Skyrocket in value, or at least rating, but view range 370. Radio is substandard. Only 570. That's kind of neat. Or not really, but that's kind of interesting. Comparing this to a Caernarvon, Caernarvon is one of the scariest tier 8 you could face. Mostly because the oppressive DPM with a very strong turret front. Upper plate is also pretty decent too, but let's see. Caernarvon. I love my Caernarvon, no question. This thing pumps out shells like nothing. So much DPM on this thing, just spamming shells all the time. Especially the turret front is good for haul down. This is like a at least 7 out of 10, 7.5 in my scale. As a tech tree vehicle, this is my go-to for like the Halloween mode against zombie vehicle. This is one of my go-tos. So very good vehicle, very capable DPM with a very strong turret front. The Conceiver, I'm worried about the bulge. Remove the bulge, this is like a 6.5 vehicle, possibly 7, right? It's about the same mobility and same gun performance as a Caernarvon Action X. The tumor makes it kind of hard, so I would say still like 5, possibly 5.5 for now, but view range could be better, radio could be better. Just remove the tumor and that would be like a 6, but yeah, the tumor kind of kills it for me. Alright. Moving on to the tier 9, the Conceiver, or Contender, that was Conceiver. Just go with the actual numbers. FV229, the duck mouth, kind of a weird looking cupola thing. That's almost French in terms of design, somewhat, but whole front looks pretty strong, right? Kind of futuristic too, with an extra plating for the driver in the middle. But yeah, the cupola is still kind of massive. Huh. Is it comparable to a Conqueror at this point? Side skirts covering the tracks. That looks very futuristic too, or at least modern, like with a Challenger in essence. But yeah, the whole front looks very futuristic. So duck build shape muzzle brake covering. And let's see, 32 pounders. Actually 105. Stock is 32. 2,400 DPM still, but better accuracy now. About the same aim time. 10 degrees gun suppression. Same turret traverse, which is still pretty good. 2 seconds of switching into the salvo mode. Gold shell is 303. APCR round flies decently fast. 80 rounds. All of them have 80 rounds in the ammo rack. Huh. Interesting. Let's see. Contender has 0.18. Still kind of dispersion while moving, but base accuracy is still a little bit better now. 2,000 health. Compare this with a Conqueror. So 105 against a 120. I'd say about the same alpha, but yeah, they nerfed the DPM on the Conqueror. That's right. Oh, so a little bit worse accuracy, a lot worse dispersion while moving, but you have slightly better DPM at 10 millimeters, 11 millimeters of pin. You do carry more ammo, 80 rounds compared to 35. Slightly slower shell velocity. It does cost a little bit cheaper for the shell, for 10 less alpha, but horsepower per ton is 1 less than the Conqueror. The same top speed. On paper, less traverse. Effective traverse is also a little bit weaker. Same terrain resistance, better gun elevation. Slightly slower turret traverse. Less view range. More health. And weighs about 80-ish tons. All of these vehicles seems pretty heavy. So it has better camo too than the Conqueror. Wow. And they have no gun depression in the back, right? Yeah, no gun depression in the back. Other than the Chopper. Chopper has a Valentine-esque of a slope downwards engine deck. But yeah. Don't point your guns backwards and try the gun depress. Let's see how good the actual armor profile. It practically makes or break these vehicles, right? Especially with the Conceiver. Oof. Oof. The giant cupola just basically kills it. It's a little bit better. Okay, it's a little bit better. It's 170, but it's not as bulbous. It is only space armor. That might troll. That might be a red herring for the rangefinder on top of the cupola. So they would think, ooh, that's actual cupola armor, like with the French. Shoot it. Does nothing. So that might be a false flag. That could be good. Turret front 280. Mantlet 280. You could shot trap theoretically with the underneath of the turret in this low sloping right here. It's only 95, but there is 30mm hull roof. Not much. You could theoretically shot trap, but if you miss, it could hit the actual 165mm upper plate, and that will likely bounce. Hull front is actually not half bad. 165 sloped. And no weak spot for the driver hatch or driver compartment. Bottom plate is 135. Haul down all the time. But there are crevices of double sloped 175 to about 375mm effective. Oh, yeah. Upper plate is decent. Turret front, decent. Yeah, you have to have, like, if it's gold shell, increase it by 20mm because the normalization. APCR, about 15 or so. So, turret front, very decent. But cupola is only 180, so it could troll with the top of the cupola. Hopefully, but still haul down. You still have to haul down with these vehicles. Yeah. Oh. That might be a problem. Don't expose bottom of your turret. But then again, the mantlet only moves, not the actual turret. It's not oscillating. So you could expose the underneath side of your turret when you're going haul down. And that's still 200mm, right? But that's a lot better than shooting at 334 millimeters effective turret front. So be wary of that when you're playing with this vehicle. It is a surprising weak spot, similar to the 226 Contradictious. There's a crest or a crescent shape crease alongside the oscillating turret when you're elevating the gun to hide the cupola. That's the weak spot, but cupola is better than the Conceiver. Yeah, cupola is definitely better. Side armor, 6mm side skirts, 90mm side armor, a little bit better uniform. Could decently side scrape, somewhat, not much, but yeah, it's okay, not the worst. So 13.7 horsepower per ton ratio, 13.6, 34 kilometers per hour top speed, weighs about 77 tons, so pretty chunky still. Camo is surprisingly better than the Conqueror. View range could be better. Substandard radio too. It is a close range fighting vehicle, but I wonder how much troll this cupola, or at least the rangefinders, will give out. But I mean, it's still better than some of the French design cupolas, right? With the periscope shape, but I don't think this vehicle is. I mean, it has better DPM at the cost of accuracy and dispersion, but it has better health. And is it better turret front than the actual Conqueror? I don't know. I mean, if you're a gun depressor, you're hiding most of the cupola in the back, but the Conqueror is pretty good hull down too. It's not as crazy as with the Super Conqueror because of the lip. It's more reliably pinned with this turret than this one right here. It's dome shape compared to a lip shape. So you can easily pin this cupola than the Super Conqueror, but I still have a soft spot for mine. This thing gets nerfed. It gets nerfed like twice as well, along with the Super Conqueror. Super Conqueror took a big hit, but I would say the surprise factor of the salvo might be interesting on this vehicle, right? It's a 105, but you're surprising them with about close enough to 800 alpha burst. And the DPM's not bad, but if this vehicle has like 2700 DPM or something, that might be a little bit too crazy, or without the cupola weak spot. But I would say 6 for now, but it's better performing, I believe, than with the Conceiver. The tumor on top is way too big. This is a good size, right, for a weak spot. You need to have some weak spot, otherwise there's no weak spot. It cannot be dislodged from a hull down position. So 6 for now. And finally, the Canopener. We already covered this vehicle. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was actually a Super Conqueror in disguise, but it's a little bit heavier than a Super Conqueror with about the same mobility and same firepower, same DPM or so. So you're not losing out without the rammer, but it is a big chunky boy of a large ass super heavy. It's weighing close to 100 tons of weight, so surprisingly chunky. And don't ram these vehicles, it's a bad idea. Yeah, close enough. Max load weight is 95. So firepower wise, it's a 120, but has better than average alpha. Yeah, 120, twin 120s, but 420 alpha, blaze it. So 2600 DPM, very comparable to the Super Conqueror. Accuracy aim time also very decent, right? Not counting the salvo mode, but gun depression, turret traverse speed, more like a fat medium tank, right? It's the same across the board. So APCR round, definitely also pretty decent with shell velocity and ammo count, 80 rounds still. So these vehicles carry a lot of ammo. The Super Conqueror is like 40 rounds or something, but let's see. Dispersion while moving, better now, 0.16. Still could use a vertical stabilizer, but let's compare it with the Super Conqueror. 40 rounds on the Super Conqueror. Still better dispersion than this thing, but it's big. The same accuracy, the same aim time. This thing has slightly better DPM at the cost of 1mm of pin. So you have the Alpha. Alpha is better than the reload speed, right? Sometimes you could argue that having a better reload, you can constantly detrack. I don't think it applies to a large caliber gun, like with a 120 or 122, 130. It applies to a smaller caliber, like a 17 pounder or 20 pounder. That way you have about 5 seconds of reload. You can constantly detrack. You're not expecting to constantly detrack with a large caliber gun. Therefore, you want more alpha to expose yourself less to trade the shots, right? So 420 alpha, I say would be a little bit better in this scenario, but potential damage is crazy. It carries so much ammo, twice the amount as with the Super Conqueror, but same horsepower per tail ratio, about the same top speed, just slower traverse. Yeah, don't get bogged down, don't go into mud. It gets bogged down. But 10 degrees gun depression, 20 elevation, has more health. On paper, better hull armor, but that thing has space armor. But it weighs more by 15 tons, with less camo and less view range, and no gun depression in the back. So, pretty much a supercharged Super Conqueror, right? It's fatter, but not at the cost of speed, at the cost of dispersion. Would I give that trade? Trading dispersion for more health and a bigger body. About the same gun performance, right? But you have more ammo to dump around. How good is the actual armor? 200 hull front, 260 turret front. Let's see. Oof. It's about 280 against AP at the hull front. Against APCR, it's about 310. Against high explosive anti-tank, it's about 320 or 310. So armor's pretty good. The driver hatch is sloped 100 at the top and 250 at the actual armor plating. So they're really protecting the driver in the front, but oof. Yet the armor is good on the upper plate. On the bottom plate, it's about 200, so still about the same as with the Super Conqueror, but Super Conqueror has the space armor against shaped charges, so against the high explosive anti-tank rounds, but 260 turret front, sloped at about 320-ish. Mantlet is pretty big, covering most of the turret front. It's 350 without the sloping parts, so you're not going through the mantlet. What the hell is this? Shot trap? 30? Where? That may be the actual hinges on the... What the hell? That's only 30? There's a crease of driver hatch weak spot that's only 30. So if you're close enough, jam a shell into this little crease, but that's not reliable. Especially when he's hauled down like this. Yeah, you're not shooting that crease. There is a weak spot, and that is shoot through the tracks into the bottom of the turret with this shot right here. So kind of like the E75 or some of the German vehicles, where if they're hauled down, if they expose the actual drive wheels, you can actually shoot to the underneath of the turret ring or this part of the hull armor, and also detract as well. Also applying to some of the other British heavy tanks, like with the Churchills or Black Prince with the sponsons. But that's kind of, just don't expose the, don't overcommit to hull down. You don't need to expose that much, only the mantlet. But cupola is 200, a sliver almost, so you still have to keep at a distance, but you have the accuracy to keep it at like 150-ish meters of quote-unquote close range engagement. So definitely a little bit better cupola size than the tier 8 or sometimes the tier 9. But yeah, hull front is good. It's not as prone to... I mean, it is more prone to gold shell on the Super Conqueror than this vehicle, but that's fine. It's 80 on the side of the driver hatch, so don't overcommit. They have to aim at this little weak spot. It's a small sliver, so they need the accuracy, but side armor is 110 on the hull and on the engine deck. And there is space armor covering 100mm. Side scraping with this vehicle is actually not bad, provided you don't... Well, it's 45 at a very good angle on the actual engine deck. You can actually side scrape with this thing. Yeah, the side of the engine, or exposing this little crease of the elevated engine deck, is not a detriment. It's actually not a detriment. You could side scrape with this thing. Rangefinders, not a weak spot unless you're shooting into the rangefinders. Yeah, you're not shooting into the rangefinders. Armory on this thing is the best. Yeah, armory on this thing is possibly the best out of the whole entire line. Tier for tier. Definitely. Just cover the bottom plate. It'll be fine. Yeah, cover the bottom plate. Bottom is only 200mm, but if you angle it, it's still kind of bouncy. So, armoring on the new British double barrel heavy tanks is the best at tier 10, tier for tier. The worst is probably the tier 8. Probably. Mobility, about the same as with the Super Conqueror, funny enough. So, we already saw that. We already saw the horsepower per ton ratio and top speed comparison. So, on paper, worse traverse. So, effective traverse is lower. Definitely going through the mud. But overall, about the same mobility as with the Super Conqueror. Just a little bit slower in turn traverse speed. Slightly slower by 2 degrees per second. But this is surprisingly fast for how fat it is. Of 95 tons. 4% camo. I mean, for the weight, for the size, not bad when you consider it. And 390 meters of view range. A little bit worse than the Super Conqueror, but some trade-offs. So overall, this is like a 6.5, right? The Super Conqueror is one of the best tier 10s, especially for Onslaught. This is also comparable. It's not lacking in the speed. You can just put a turbocharger on this thing, and it's good to go. Put a turbocharger, vertical stabilizer. You don't need the accuracy, so put improved hardening. Swap that around. You get the health bonus, as well as the track bonus, as well as the turbocharger mobility, and the vertical stabilizer. You're good to go. That's a very good setup. I would not switch the turbocharger for optics. Screw optics. We don't need it. So, the best vehicle out of this entire line is likely the tier 10. Tier for tier, armor for armor, tier 10. The worst one is likely the tier 8. Mostly because of the goddamn tumor on top. The tumor is massive. Yeah, the tumor is massive on this thing. Otherwise, it's a decent enough vehicle too. I mean, this is like a 5.5. So, or 5 at least. But the tumor really kills this vehicle. Out of this entire line. Unless this vehicle has like 17 or 20 horsepower per ton ratio. With like 40 degrees per second. Or at least 35. For traverse speed. When it plays like a medium tank. Fine. But it's not a medium tank. So, yeah, this is possibly the worst vehicle performing out of this entire line, but this is the second worst. So I would say the best vehicle is tier 10, tier 9, tier 7, and tier 8. So we did not include the premium tank because obviously, but yeah, the tumor really kills it for me. This is a little bit better, especially with the troll on top. So the gun needs to be better on the tier 7, or DPM needs to be a little bit better on the tier 7. But otherwise, it's okay. Yeah, the best tier 4 tier. I'm tied. Now when I think about it, I'm tied between the tier 8 and the tier 7 being the worst. This thing could work. The hull armor could work. The turret armor could work. 𝗕𝗶𝗶 does not really work, right? The gun does seems okay. DPM seems okay. DPM on this thing doesn't seem that great, but at least the 𝗕𝗶𝗶 is not super massive. Yeah, these two are 5.5. These two are 5.5. This is a 6. This is a 6.5 or at least 7 or sometimes 7. Because it's about the same stats as a Super Conqueror, just bigger. Just more well, not exactly bigger. Is it really? It's just longer, I guess. So it's a minivan version of a Camry, if you will. So, not exactly that much bigger. It's fine. So, I would say this is a 6.5 at least. This is a 6. And these two are 5.5s. Well, there you go, folks. A long-ass video for British heavy tanks. So, finally, some good food. But we can take a look at the stats buff to the other branches. They did not put a comprehensive actual picture of all the buffs. But you can take a look at the patch notes on the Type 71, on the Yo tanks. So they put all the stuff. They changed the tech tree around, removed some of the weird modules on the stuff, like the derp gun on the Tiger 1. So where the hell is the Tiger 1? They removed the little dinky 105. Yeah, 105 L28. The derp gun that's on the Panzer IVs, I think. They removed it from the Tiger because it's weird. So you can see the actual buffs at the bottom, but yeah, they buffed the Type 71 when it definitely needs it. So frontal hull armor, thank God. The hull armor on that thing suck. Buffed the 𝗕𝗶𝗶 armor, buffed the fire chance, reverse speed, top speed, some of the base accuracy, other stuff. But you can take a look. We can take a look later on. But overall, I feel finally, after about a year of a decent tech tree coming to World of Tanks. Last year or this year was kind of right? Czech light tanks, I thought it was cool, but nobody really wanted to play with those. Polish tank destroyers, a gimmicky close range fighting that doesn't really have that crazy of an armor. And Japanese gun cooling seems meh. And the year prior was it the cars? It was the British cars. This thing needs a buff. Concept number 5. What the hell was happening last year? Chinese rocket heavy tanks? Was that like early 2023? I totally forgot. It's like you're getting too old. Whatever. What's the wait? Was it like the Minotauros? No, Minotauros was way older than that, right? God, I'm getting super old. I don't remember which class came in. I think Chinese rocket heavy tanks, British cars. And fudge me in the ass, I forgot. I really did. I really forgot what the third branch on 2022 was. I have no idea. Or 2023 was. I forget. Oh well. I'm getting old. Well, there you go, folks. The British double barrel heavy tanks. So, looking forward to the tier 10 swarming Onslaught. But that it is what it is. So, as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.